neighborhoods, and Acorn would go around to neighborhoods and supermarkets and other places and have people fill out voter registration forms. In a handful of cases, people would write phony names, for example, Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, and whenever Acorn found that one of those forms had a phony name on it, they did what they were required to do by law, which is to report the abuse, report the problem. So when Acorn did that, they weren't engaged in voter registration fraud. They were following the law. But then what happened is that in many parts of the country, the Republican attorney general and district attorneys would accuse Acorn of making those phony claims, of making those phony names, instead of saying that Acorn was, in fact, doing their job. So in almost every story about voter fraud, the mass media, not just the right-wing media, but the mainstream media, failed to report that Acorn was abiding by the law. It failed to report that not one person in this entire country voted who actually signed one of those forms in a misleading way. So there was absolutely no voter fraud. There was some voter registration problems which Acorn reported. But despite that, John McCain, Sarah Palin, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, and the rest of the right-wing media and the mainstream media, unfortunately, picked up on this notion that Acorn is responsible for wide-scale voter fraud. And that's what you're seeing on the houses of the Senate and the House, on the floors of the House and Senate this last week. You're seeing people basically following up on these misleading charges against Acorn.
The more that I look into the misleading nature of the charges against Acorn, not just from people from whom I expect misleading charges, but from reporters and mainstream media, people in the mainstream media who ought to know better, the angrier I get. And I think that we're going to be covering the lies about Acorn over a number of shows over upcoming days, including talking specifically about this latest scandal about this entrapment video with people posing as a pimp and a prostitute. Professor Dreyer, I hope that you might be able to come back and join us again as we continue to talk about this story and try to understand how this went so off the rails over the next few days.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Peter Dreyer is a professor at Occidental College. He's co-author of an important new study about Acorn, which we are posting a link to at our website, rachel.msnbc.com. Ooh, this story gets me mad.